Hi, and welcome to Having a Voice, Not Merely a Seat at the Table, Powerful Strategies to Amplify Your Voice. My name is Sharon Delaney, and I'm really excited about being a part of today's webinar, and am thrilled that I was able to be invited to do this webinar with you all. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I am Vice President and partner at Walk West, which is a digital marketing agency based in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm one of the founders. I started this entrepreneurial journey 10 years ago after spending 20 years as an Emmy Award-winning television journalist, where I covered stories, thousands of them across the country, mostly in the Southeast. And when we got to Raleigh, we decided we wanted to make it our home for the long haul. Today, as VP of Professional Development, I work with corporate leaders on amplifying their voices to make sure that they are making impact and driving business results. But my passion is working with women and women business leaders, emerging leaders who really want to move the needle on their journey of success. So this is perfect that I'm a part of this webinar, and I hope that you were able to get something out of our time spent today. Looking at this screen, I wonder how many of you all recognize the people in this room. If you look at the third person right in the center of the screen, that is Susan Rice. She was National Security Advisor for President Obama. And in his first administration, she was appointed to his cabinet and actually served as UN ambassador for the United States. In his second cabinet, she was elevated to National Security Advisor. But what she found in those rooms is that she was one of the only females, and she was being spoken over a lot, interrupted. All sorts of things were happening that her ideas and her voice was not heard. So she created a strategy using other folks in the room to make sure that her important ideas were being heard. And that's what I want for you. I want your voice to be heard as well. I like this quote from Dara Richardson Heron, who is former CEO of the YWCA. She says, it's important for women to know that having a voice really means having a track record of success and accomplishments so that people want to listen to what you have to say because you're saying something of value. So use your voice, but use it strategically. Who remembers this? The infamous MTV Awards a number of years ago when Taylor Swift won the award for Best Video of the Year. And in the middle of her acceptance speech, Kanye West jumped up on the stage and literally took the microphone out of her hands and went on to say that she didn't deserve the award and somebody else did. But the fact that he interrupted her on a worldwide stage on the Global MTV Awards was stunning. And she was left standing there. Look at the look on her face. I mean, talk about the disrespect for her. And what we call that is man-interrupting. Now, I know I can't see you, but raise your hand if you have been man-interrupted. This is the unnecessary interruption of a woman by a man. Some fun vocabulary lessons today. How about bro-appropriating? You ever heard of that one? That is using a woman's idea and taking credit for it. And the reason we call it bro-appropriating is because in a meeting, when you share an idea and it goes around the table and people don't really respond, and then 5 minutes later, a man says virtually the same thing, and everyone says, yeah, Joe, that's a great idea. Hello, you just said that 5 minutes ago. That's called bro-appropriating, and that's exactly what Susan Rice teaches us how to overcome. How about mansplaining? You all have probably heard this term, or maybe not. This is when a man explains something to a woman in a very patronizing way. I've included a link there to a humorous video, but it also uses a lot of actual video of meetings all around the world where women are talking and men jump in, interrupt them, and explain it to them as if they're not doing a good job. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it also is a very serious matter. So here's what Harvard Business Review found when they surveyed men about what do you see when women are speaking? Their feedback is this, that females do not speak loud enough. And that's an actual function of the physical larynx, our speaking voice. Here's the thing. Women have less resonance and bass in our voice. And what that means is we're physically a little bit harder to hear. So there's that. We need to be able to speak a little bit more loudly so that we don't come across timid or meek. That's a credibility issue. Also, men say that women tend to fail to articulate a strong point of view. We don't get to the point, maybe. We don't have enough focused, deliberate messaging. We're going to work on that today as well. Women allowing themselves to be interrupted. We're going to stop that as well. Apologizing repeatedly. That is something that also hurts our credibility. And then failing to back up our opinions with evidence. And I'll show you a repeatable method on how to get past that. Has anybody ever heard about the human attention span as it relates to goldfish? I'm not sure how scientists did this, but they actually were able to study about how long goldfish can pay attention. It turns out that goldfish can have their attention on one thing for 9 seconds without drifting off to the next thing. You know how long humans can pay attention without drifting off? 8 seconds. Goldfish have actually longer attention spans than people. That is ridiculous. Here's why. Think about the assault of stimuli on us every day. We're constantly looking at our screens, checking our phones. I mean, how often are you doing a project at work and you're constantly being interrupted by Slack or an email or somebody calling or bumping into your office? We're constantly content switching, and our brains are actually able to do it. We have very complex brains that are able to have multiple things going on at once. So I want you to learn today to focus attention. And one of the ways to do it is being authentic. Why am I showing you this awful picture of myself from high school? That's some haircut, right? That's quite a mullet. All party in the back and business up front. Woo! But the reason I'm showing you this is because I am willing to be vulnerable and authentic. And that is part of getting people's attention. Because, folks, people can see through fake. You can only position yourself one way inauthentically for a certain amount of time before you run out of steam and people are going to see through it. So you need to present yourself with authenticity. Here is this repeatable way that I'm going to show you how to get to your message quickly and back it up with evidence so you can make your point. Messaging is so important if you want to be heard. We call it the SET format, and it stands for this. The S is the solution or the short answer. The E is the evidence that supports that answer, and the T is the transition made by summarizing it to make sure your audience hears what you are intending for them to hear. Here it is in action, the SET format. If someone were to say, who's the best basketball team in America? And I know I'm dreaming for all you other collegiate sports fans out there, but I went to Florida State. I made the slide, so I get to pick the team. So I would say the Florida State basketball team is the best college team in America. They have the fastest point guard in the country. This team has more experience playing in big games than their competition, and they have the most talented starting five of any other team. These are some of the reasons I believe Florida State's basketball team is the best in the country. Here's that SET format broken down. The white sentence is the short answer. Florida State basketball team is the best college team in America. Each of the red phrases are my evidence points that are supporting my main statement. 1, they have the fastest point guard. 2, more experience. And 3, most talented starting five. And then the black sentence at the bottom is the summary of what my main point is. These are some of the reasons I'm driving it home that that basketball team's the best in America. So this is just an analogy to show you a simple way to build that out. So let's talk about some of the evidence points that you can use in your business every day. The message support for your short answer or your solution. You can use data in all of your businesses, no matter what industry you're in. There is measurable data that can support your main point. There's third-party credibility from another source. For example, I would love for you to hire Walk West for your next marketing campaign. Third-party credibility is that Inc. magazine has just named us one of the fastest growing agencies in America because more and more clients are hiring us. That's third-party credibility. Also, awards. We've won many, many awards about our work, which supports why we're a good agency for you to consider. Use examples. That can also be great evidence. Using comparisons. For example, if you are in sales or business development for your organization, first quarter this year, we increased sales 25% over first quarter last year. Those are great evidence points. And using stories to help personalize your message. That really helps your message be memorable. Now let's talk about the amplification method that Susan Rice used in the White House when she was working for President Obama. This is the actual definition that Susan Rice said. When a woman made a key point, other women would repeat it, giving credit to its author. This forced the men in the room to recognize the contribution and denied them the chance to claim the idea as their own. Amplification. Here's how you put it into play. You master the pre-meeting. So let's say, for example, you've got a really important business review next week. You create a pre-meeting before that, an informal meeting with the other colleagues in the room. It doesn't have to be just women. There are plenty of male partners that can help be our supporters. And let's be frank, everyone, we have to work together if we're going to get to gender equity. And so there are male partners who you can help them and they can help you. So hold that pre-meeting, the informal meeting ahead of time, and you tell these partners, listen, I'm going to be bringing up a very important idea in our business review next week. And when I say it, I need you to jump in and amplify it and say, Sharon, that's a great idea. How can we build upon that? And that will not allow anyone else to take away your important contribution. You also want to clarify the true purpose of that meeting. Be focused. Have one clear idea. If you bring too much to the table, it will be difficult for people to follow. And then arrive early to important business meetings and stay later to make connections. Arriving early lets you take a look at the room, even if you've been in it 100 times before. Get there early and own it. Own your space in that room. And make sure you feel confident. If you're going to be standing up and presenting, stand up there a few minutes beforehand. Take a look at the room and make sure you feel comfortable. And then stay later to make connections. It's in those small conversations that you can help build trusted relationships. Now, here's another way to amplify women's voices. There is an app called the Gender Avenger. I've downloaded it on my phone. And what this does is when you're in a meeting, you can start the meeting, and when there is a man talking, you hit a dude. And then when it's a woman talking, not a dude. And you keep this app going throughout the meeting. You can just have it inconspicuously down on the table or in your lap. And then at the end of the meeting, you hit finish. And you will find out at the end of that meeting who dominated the talking in that meeting. Because if you're not speaking up, you're not being heard. So it's a little fun, but that is a very quick way to find out who dominates in those meetings. You also can use the Gender Avenger app when you're at conferences and events where there are people on stages, and you can actually see, are there manels, which are panels that are made up of only men? Or is there some gender equity being shown, and you can actually put it into the app? I encourage you to follow Gender Avengers on Twitter because they are hilarious. They are calling out conferences and events all over the country that are not allowing women to have their voices heard. I love this quote by Jody Greenstone Miller. She is CEO of the Business Talent Group. If we had more female leaders, perhaps we would start to associate the sound of a woman's voice with leadership. Again, we must be heard. But when you're being heard, you want to make sure of the way you communicate, and how you're communicating is putting your best foot forward. Not sure if you've ever seen this pie chart before. I'm going to move my little bubble over here so that you can see a little bit more of the data here. This is how people perceive you. When you're speaking, people are noticing what your body is doing, what your hands and your face and the gestures you're making. The second thing that they're noticing most of is your vocal delivery, your tone, your modulation. Are you using pauses correctly? And only 7% of the words? That sounds ridiculous. You worked so hard on this presentation and putting your messaging together. How is it that only 7% of it is being perceived or noticed? Here's the thing, though. All of these things must work congruently for your message to land the way you intend. So your body language, your vocal delivery, and your message all must work together for you to have proper delivery. Or let's move this down here. Here we go. You also want to make sure that you're not being too direct. And that can be a tough thing for women sometimes, because a man who is really confident and just walks into a room and owns it, he would be described as confident. Women sometimes, as you all know, ladies, are not described that way. So you want to make sure you're not being too direct. And I have a video link that I encourage you to click on and watch this. And that is a display of being too direct, but I want you to make sure that you are doing it within the right confines so that you can be seen as credible and authoritative, but not overboard. So with vocal delivery, there are some reminders that I want to give you. You want to make sure you're breathing properly. When you have good, proper, deep breathing from your diaphragm, you're going to get more oxygen to your brain. More oxygen to your brain helps you remember your content better, and then it helps the words come out quicker. So before you're getting up to do a presentation or speak up in that meeting, do a minute's worth of deep breathing, and that will help bring clarity to your thoughts. It also, when you are deeply breathing and properly breathing, you will have the proper volume that you need. And as a female, we want to make sure you're heard. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the loudest, 0 the quietest, I want you to be at an 8 when you're speaking. Inflection. We want to use our inflection. Our voices are muscles. You have lows and highs, and you don't want to speak in a monotone fashion. You will put your audience to sleep. Pacing and tempo. We want to have variety in our tempo and our delivery, because when you're really excited about something, oftentimes you'll speed up. But when you need to land a really important point, you can slow it down to make sure your audience hears you. And then the pause. President Obama, and he among all speakers, was able to use the pause the most effectively. He was able to weave it within his speeches, not too much, but just the right amount to make sure people heard what he was saying. I encourage you to look at this TED Talk by Julian Treasure. It's 15 minutes long. For those of you who don't watch TED Talks, I encourage you to start listening to them. They're wonderful ways to help develop you professionally and personally. Click on this link to see Julian's, and he talks about how to speak so that people really listen. Vocal graffiti. How many people have that? Raise your hand, because we all have vocal graffiti when we're speaking. These are the filler words, the ums, the ahs, the likes, the so's, and wells. You can actually train your delivery so that you stop using those words. Also, words that weaken, kind of, sort of, those words really diminish your spoken word. So try to take those kind ofs and sort ofs. You don't kind of want a raise. You'd like a raise. You're not ever sort of pregnant. You are or you're not. Those are fun examples, but you understand what I mean. You have to take those weakening words out of your deliberate delivery to make sure your message is heard. The word just. Wow, that is an overused word, particularly for women, and most often in emails. Think about this. If you send out a proposal and you haven't heard from that client, sometimes you want to follow up and say, I'm just writing to find out if you've looked at our proposal yet. Take that word just out. It weakens your language. It's as if you're interrupting their inbox. Take the just out. I always reread all of my emails before I hit the send button to make sure I'm not using the word just inappropriately. And then avoiding upspeak. And this, unfortunately, tends to be very common with women. If you don't know what upspeak is, here's a little example. Hi, Joe. I'm calling to find out if you've gotten my proposal. Yes, I want to know what you think about it and if you would like some presentation training, because I think it's really important for your team to be able to communicate more effectively and with confidence and impact. Do you hear how I'm ending all those sentences on an up instead of a down cadence? It's often taking place with younger women where they're using this upspeak and it's become a style of speaking, but it really hurts your credibility. If you're not asking a question, you should not be ending your sentences up. Now, you do want to have variety in your delivery, but make sure if you're making a deliberate statement that it is not ending on an up inappropriately. Then your body language. You want to make sure you're presenting with an executive presence. Really stand up straight. Listen to what our mothers used to tell us. Stand up straight and use good posture. Eyes up. Smile when appropriate. We know people want to listen to us more if they have a connection to you, if you're approachable and have a likability factor. Never retreat, meaning never start walking backwards on a stage or in front of a room. It indicates a lack of confidence. Move with purpose and enthusiasm. Use your friendlies. These are the people in the room, much like the amplification method, but these are the people in the room that you're going to tell them in advance, hey, I've got a big presentation today. I need you to be really listening actively. And when I look at you, I need you to give me nonverbal confirmation that I'm doing okay. And then gestures. One of the top questions I get when I do my corporate speaker training is, I don't know what to do with my hands. Well, there are simple tricks. You want to keep your hands and your gestures in between your waist and your shoulders. Hands not up here and hands not below your waist. And we have a video that actually shows you what to do. But basically, we want you to use your hands when you're speaking. You don't want to clasp them here and have them not move. That makes you too stiff and it makes you look nervous. But I encourage you to look at this link in the video that will show you exactly what to do with your hands when you're speaking so you become a more effective speaker. Now, the next thing you have to do to improve your communication so that your voice is heard is the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and present. You cannot skip over this. You cannot wing it. You must prepare and practice before you present. The reason I have the icon with the phone is because you have the best tool right in your hands and in your pockets that you can use. Use your phone and put it horizontal, not vertical. Put it up on the mantle or have a friend hold it for you and practice your presentations or practice that elevator speech. Practice ahead of time by recording yourself and going back and watching. Nobody likes to watch themselves on video, but it is the quickest way to improve. You'll see what your body's doing, what kind of facial expressions you have. How does your voice sound? Are you speaking too quickly? And then Toastmasters International. I encourage you to look into this. If you've not heard of this organization, it is phenomenal. It started many decades ago, and it is an organization for people who want to improve their presentation and speaking skills. Everyone there is there for the same reason. And it is a community of support where you get to practice and have these other folks help you learn to become better speakers. Here's another trick. The Like So app. It is your personal speech coach. It's an app that you can download from the App Store, and it actually uses artificial intelligence to listen to you while you're speaking. And you can choose how you want to practice. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, all the way up to 30 minutes. And you can tell it what words you want it to listen to, because we all have these various vocal fillers. And when you're finished, you hit the stop button, and lo and behold, it will tell you how many fillers you used, and which ones you used and how often. And then it will give you a grade. It will also tell you what your pacing was. So for example, the English language, when you're presenting, it's best to present no more than 150 words per minute. If you're speaking faster than that, your audience is going to miss some of your important content. And then you can actually put in, let's say that big business review is in 3 weeks. You can put the date into the app, and then it will give you push notifications to remind you to practice. It's a wonderful tool that I encourage you to use. The other very important thing to be a great speaker so that your voice is heard is that you must be a good listener. And I'm talking about engaged listening. Put the phone away, turn Slack off, stop checking email when someone is speaking. Give them your full attention. We all have to do a better job about paying better attention, just like the goldfish that I told you up front. Our minds can do multiple things at once, but stop thinking about who's picking up the kids from school, what's for dinner tonight, what's on the docket for the weekend tonight, while you're supposed to be listening to someone. Be focused and attentive when someone's speaking. You do the same for them, and they'll start to do the same for you. So again, we want to have a voice, not merely a seat at the table. These are powerful strategies that can amplify your voice. I encourage you to start putting them into play right away. Connect with me on Twitter. I'm at Sharon D. McCloud. Would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, just contact me through Twitter or go to my website, which is SharonDelaney.tv, SharonDelaney.tv. Thanks very much.